Hey, everybody. Today I'm going to talk to you about faith in business. Not faith and business, but faith in business. Your faith, and if not your faith, certainly my faith in business. Um, People oftentimes ask me about success and what has made the shift and change and what guides me, or some people say what drives me, but it's really what guides me, what informs me. How do I get through the things that I do, and how do I do the things that I do? And really, is boiled down to faith. It is my faith that I look to practically apply, my faith that I look to practically live out in business. And the faith is in my relationship with Jesus Christ, and the things that he teaches, the things that Scripture unveils and gives me, and informs the way to live. And so it's faith in business. And I do want to answer once again, what does faith have to do in business? And I will say everything. It has a place in business. I was the person years and years ago that said faith was irrelevant. This relationship was irrelevant. And I would tell you that those were the days when I was completely and totally out of control. The precursor to it, and the aftermath, and during those times with bankruptcies and carnage, broken relationships, all of that, as I proclaimed that faith had no relevancy in business and life. But I'm here to tell you today, faith and a relationship with Jesus Christ is a game changer, and it certainly made the difference for me, mainly because it is Scripture, and faith in business is just rich with principles, principles that help guide, principles that help inform, and principles mainly to address things that we grapple with today in our society, of basic things of right and wrong. And when you put these principles to practice, it will give you great stability, peace. I call it business mental health, and just great mental health overall, and of just understanding through this relationship, and applying faith that there is a right and wrong. Did I say there's a right and wrong? We live in a culture, in a time where people say that there's no right or wrong. Although I did hear someone not long ago, very famous individual, that said nobody knows what is right and wrong anymore. But I'm here to tell you today, both, that there is a right and wrong, and there is somebody who knows what is right and wrong. And I get to share some of that with you, that has changed my life, and hopefully just in sharing some of this, it will change yours as well in your perspective. Here's a thought, and I heard this today on a podcast that someone else was discussing about how they were so right about a certain position. And I thought about this, and here it is, and that is, everybody can be wrong, but everybody can't be right. And let me say that again. Everybody can be wrong, but everybody can't be right. We can all be wrong. I could think about things that I was doing in my business and operations, in decision making, and we had a process in place. And frankly, it was not the right way to do it, or it was wrong. That was not, it was wrong what I was doing, or how I put a policy into place in handling a situation, settling a matter, and I was wrong. I was misinformed. I didn't understand all of the facts, and perhaps I was doing it with a certain bias. And the same could be said for the other party. You've heard it before. Both of you are wrong. You also heard two wrongs don't make a right. So there's a right and wrong, and this is very important when it comes to faith in business, because while everybody can be wrong, everybody cannot be right. And on this podcast, a person they had this very, very strong position, and they simply said, I know I'm right. Well, you speak to the other person, and they said the exact same thing, but they were two opposing positions. So both cannot be right. And that's where and why faith is so important. Faith in business, faith in life, faith regarding mental health is so critical, because everybody can be wrong, but not everybody can be right. And so to get to this place of right, and what has helped me manage my business and life affairs and be at a place of great mental health and at peace, faith in business, was realizing that there is a right and wrong, but there needs to be a plumb line. And so faith, the scriptures, the Bible has proven, not only years and years of being tested, the best plumb line that one can use in terms of right and wrong. Because you have to ask yourself, you have to and do have to ask yourself, and I do oftentimes, I've been asked by other people, what makes you think that you're right? And well, I'm right because I think that I'm right, or because I have a certain belief. It's kind of similar to the thought process when somebody has said before that if it's not a lie if you believe it. And in this regard, I could say, well, it's right because because I say it's right. I believe it's right. But no, you can't just simply land that is right because you say it's right, or you just doing the right thing. We find this with in our business, where companies come together, and you'll see the 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10, they all come to a conference, and they all get together, and they look at what they call practices. They share ideals, and then they all leave with what is called best practices. And that is, we've tested this, we've tested that, and then they see what is the common denominator amongst all of them that they know has worked, and it has stood notice all these words, stood the test of time, and then they surmise and will say that this is the best practice. Well, best practices is nothing new, as there's nothing new under the sun, and that's once again faith, because best practices can be found in scripture, where we are told that the wise man built his house on the rock, and the foolish man built his house on the sand. And then it tells us, he who put these things to practice. So there it is, practice, founded in scripture. So there is a scripture rich with what is right and wrong. And when you put these things to practice, faith and business, the outcome not only is predictable, but the outcome will be very beneficial. So two people confused with doing what is right with doing what is right in their own eyes. And so I had to get rid of that too. I have to wash my eyes. I can't do what is right in my own eyes. I have to do what is right and what is established and has been proven right. There is a right way and there is a wrong way. And so I have to come to that conclusion, and I have to also come to, and this has been proven in my own life, that there's a right way and there's a wrong way, because I've proven oftentimes, I thought it was right, it is proven to be wrong. And just because I'm doing it doesn't mean that it's right. There's a right way and there's a wrong way to do certain things. And then there's also another principle. Just because something works doesn't mean it is right. Okay? Just because something works does not mean that it's right. But what is right will eventually, over time, these are all the operative words, will eventually work. What is right eventually, over time, will eventually work. And so I've learned to put those things to practice, and this is all as a result of now taking, being intentional and understanding faith has a very front and central and profound place in work and in my life. And it is a game changer. And it has been a game changer for me. And so I want to challenge us to take this concept, right and wrong, but you said, where did you get this from? Well, there's a right way to do operations. There's a right way for customer service. There's a right way. And it's not really all of the time the written word, but the spirit of the word that's important, right and wrong. And when you do these things and put these things to practice, the right and wrong concept that I've tried to share with us today, it doesn't mean that it's not going to hurt. This is another thing that I realized. It doesn't mean that it's not going to be painful. It doesn't mean that that you won't even suffer doing something or doing the right thing. But what it does mean is that eventually, see, you'll be satisfied at the end of the day, and you can say, well, that hurt. That was painful. Things didn't work out the way that I planned. Things didn't work out the way that I wanted them to. But at the end of the day, you can look in the mirror, and this is why faith is so important, and helps you with mental health and everything else. You can say, when it's not dependent upon you or anyone else, you can say, I did the right thing. I'll see you next time, where I'm going to continue to share with us these critical principles, life-changing principles, business-changing principles, mental-changing principles of faith in business. This is Glenn. I'll see you next time.